And well, he said it killed the neighbor's dog. I was like, oh, was it in there trying to kill a goat? And he's like, nope, it hopped the fence and murdered it in their yard in front of the kid. And it's like, nope, I don't want any dogs.
Howdy, folks, and welcome to the Goat Grazing Podcast. I'm your host, Max Wade. Are you an aspiring goatrepreneur looking to start your own goat grazing business? Or maybe you already have a herd out there earning its keep. Or maybe you're just fascinated by this amazing industry. If so, this is the podcast for you. Folks, we have an incredible show today. We have a guest that is amazing. Another goat. Now, I'm not talking about the four-legged kind. I'm talking about one of the greatest of all time guests. We are talking with Adam Ledvina, and he is owner and operator of Blue Collar Goatscaping and Iowa Kiko Goats. Now, he's running goats all across the state of Iowa. This man has superpowers, folks. He is doing all of this with a whole lot of goats virtually by himself. I'm going to stop yapping because we got to stampede right into this because there's a lot to go over. He has so many things going on. Adam, welcome to the Goat Grazing Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Man, I'm so excited. I appreciate you taking your time to do this. I know your time is valuable. So let's just get into this. And can you just give me like that 30,000 foot view? What is Blue Collar Goatscaping and Iowa Kiko Goats?
Yep. So we are in central Iowa. We pretty much run anywhere from 500 to 1,000, maybe more than that, depending on the time of the year. We run goats around pretty much the whole state. We do run a couple border states when need be, but we try to keep it within a couple hours of home. And we run goats for clearing out invasive brush like multiflora rose, honeysuckle, autumn olive, poison ivy, wild parsnips, kind of a handful of our invasives around here that we tend to target. And then with Iowa Kiko Goats, it's a meat goat business. So I mean, most of the males go to meat, and then we do sell breeding stock as well with our females, and we just kind of keep growing and not sure where we're going to stop, but...
How many goats do you have in production as far as on your working crew out on the goatscaping deal?
Yep. So we have multiple herds going on at the same time. So I like to have my groups in divisible by 50 or so, because I can haul about 40 to 50 in a 16-foot bumper pole, which is what we cart most things around with. I did just upgrade a couple years ago to a 24-foot gooseneck, which can haul 70 to 100 depending on size. So I kind of have my groups divisible by that. And so I have some groups that are 40. I might have less, maybe 20 to 40 on something. And other places I'll have 300, 400, 500 goats on those bigger jobs. The more goats you have, the faster the job goes, the more ground you can cover, and the more chasing your tail you do.
Yeah, exactly. Just compounding issues and confusion and stress sometimes.
You bet.
Okay, so you have not always been in goats. This isn't something that you were born into. You kind of started this thing out of the blue. So tell me, how in the world did you get going with this?
Total accident. Yeah, so I grew up on acreage just outside of town. My parents didn't farm or anything. Dad's a carpenter, mom's a secretary, and both sets of my grandparents farmed. So both my parents grew up on the farm, so I was very much around farming. I mean, it's rural Iowa, and my hometown's 2,000 people. So, I mean, everyone's kind of rural. Everyone's kind of a rural kid to some degree. But after graduating high school, I went to college for 4 years and was thinking about being a high school biology teacher. So I was always interested in animals, wildlife, biology, just always interested in animals. So that's about where you can see things kind of start to take shape. But then, so I studied conservation, biology, and natural resources. Decided I can teach without being a formal teacher, and I have a little more freedom with what to teach and how to teach and all that. Which the way things have gone in the last 10 years or so, I'm kind of glad I took this route. But anyway, yeah. So graduated. Central College is a private school here in Iowa, and I worked for the Iowa Department of Natural Resources for a few years. I kind of bounced around with different sites. At that time, there wasn't a lot of jobs in conservation, so I bounced around different places in the state and doing mostly management, maintenance management, did some surveying, went around the state, basically doing vegetation surveys, animal surveys, bird counts, anything like that. And then I moved down to Florida for a bit, worked in the Everglades doing studies down there, moved out to California. I worked for a private land restoration company and did all kinds of work. We worked on Stanford campus, up and down Napa Valley, up in the mountains, in the city, just anywhere. There was contract work, private contract work. So you do anything and everything with native land restoration, do a lot of fires. Yeah, so that was, conservation was my thing, not the goats. But then the goats kind of just happened because as I'm out in California and just kind of taking an interest in goats for brush management. And now I'm running fire, which fire can be dangerous, especially California out west. In Iowa, we do prescribed burns that are well managed maintenance. It's a little better because we can do, it's a little more settled in Iowa. You got a little more moisture. Things are a little more under control. You go out west, it's more fighting fires to stop them versus prescribing them. Knowing the risks of fire and also herbicide usage on brush management, excavation work. So your heavy machinery, equipment, running a Fecon head, forestry mulcher, anything like that. They're expensive, $150,000 machine that's chopping and tearing, and you're taking all the good with all the bad, and you're just leaving a devastation, and you're turning and tearing up erosion. You got soil health concerns and erosion concerns and water pollution concerns because of all that. So with all those many different things, I looked at goats as an alternative. One, it's going to take down all the great things about goats, but I mean, it's just an environmentally friendly way of taking care of the brush, and it also creates meat as a byproduct. And with my love and appreciation for agriculture and conservation working together, I fell right into place with raising these meat goats for brush management and kind of solving both of the passions that I've had in life. And it's become my life.
It's become the part of your life.
Exactly.
Had you seen this going on somewhere? Did you just come up with this idea, or had you seen goats doing this type of work that kind of spurred you on with this?
I mean, I don't know because no one was really doing it, but somebody has to have done it in order for me to get the idea, get that spark going. Like when I was out in California, I went and interviewed somebody. I had kind of started the business over here in Iowa and then was traveling to all these different jobs. So I had a small herd going, and so I would interview people in other places that were doing it, hands-on, boots on the ground, and see the hands-on experience. So, but the initial idea, I mean, I don't know. It's not like I saw something's like, I can do that. It's just, it's what a goat does. And we're doing, like, half my classes were about native land restoration and invasive management and all this stuff. And you just get the idea of like, well, goats eat browse, and all the problem species are browse. So let's get browsers.
Well, then in your conservation work and that you're doing, you're using a lot of herbicide, doing controlled burns and machinery, and we know what all of those do, and they all have their place in land management. What was it about, the difference for you as a land manager already that made you go, I'm going to put goats to work to do this?
Yeah, I mean, herbicide, I don't like herbicide. I don't go too far down rabbit hole with that. I mean, that's a pretty controversial subject, but nobody really likes herbicide. It's, like you said, it's a tool. There's places for it. People use it. I really don't like it. Both my grandpas passed away from cancer, and whether it was related to that or not, but I mean, you know how much farmers are around the chemical, and I see neighbors and friends that get sick, and they kind of don't talk about it, but also like, well, there's starting to be more and more things pointing that direction, and I'd rather not deal with it. And it's been 7-8 years since I've touched chemical. We've actually had some issues where we've had goats that are on a job somewhere, and then some drift goes and affects them, and I've had some miscarries because of drift and finding chemical or fertilizer that was over fertilized. And just, again, you got to be careful talking about these kinds of things, but it's facts. It is what it is. And I see something happen, and I see what happens afterwards, and you can kind of correlate something happened there, and without diving too deep into it and getting a lot of autopsies done. I don't know. I'm a scientist. I'm a biologist. I know how to take note of situations.
Yeah, some things can draw a pretty direct correlation without a whole lot of scientific proof behind it. I think so. Well, then how did you, when you started out, you're around 1,000 goats at any one time right now. What did you start out with in the beginning?
4 does and a buck.
4 does and a buck. You were big time.
Yeah. Back in 2013, I got 4 does and a buck, and they were, I mean, different mixed breeds. And then I got some bunch of bottle kids, and they would have been dairy cross bottle kids, and kind of learned with that, which was a good learning experience. But and really what I gained the most out of that was finding the breed. So I had those 4 does and a buck. And then I got a few Spanish does and a few Kiko does and a few Boer and a few Savannah and a few Nigerian, a few Feiners, a few Pygmy. I think I've named everything.
Yeah.
So I got a few of everything, probably 20 to 40 head of experiments. So, how do these are really good for that and really good for that. And everyone has their perks and everyone has their negatives. And I ended up going full stream with the breed that had the least negatives and the most positives. And I think I had a pretty good experience with learning all of that.
How long do you think from the time that you started out that you settled in on the Kikos and you said, hey, this is the breed that I know I can roll with?
Yeah, it was pretty quick learning. I mean, 2-3 years, and I was set. I still had a few crossbreeds for a few years just to see how they would work, and the crossbreeds lasted a while, but eventually all the crossbreeds were gone, and everything that was working well for me was all Kiko, and so I've pretty well gone full bore with Kiko.
No pun intended. Did you from the beginning when you started out and you settled in on Kiko? Did you have this idea like I'm going to run blue collar goatscaping and I'm going to run Iowa Kiko goats at the same time for two different things, but they overlap. But was that in your business plan from the beginning?
No, I didn't really have a plan. I was just kind of I was doing on the side. So I was working for the state, doing DNR work, and just had this on the side, working nights and weekends with the brush management. And it was always just meant to be brush management. But when you find something that works so well for brush management, and other people want brush management or want to run a brush management operation, they start researching the right breeds. And a lot of people run cross breeds, and that's great. But now I've got a pure breed. I mean, there's commercial Kikos in there, but I mean, we've got a pure breed that is specifically bred for doing this. Because there's many things you can breed a breed for, but we're running almost a specific line for this all-encompassing. Exactly what we do is what we breed those for. So if you want to do what we do, we've kind of already done the work. We got a decade of effort into this line to some degree, I guess.
Now on the Iowa Kiko goat side, are you just selling seed stock, breeding stock, or are you selling meat?
Oh yeah, I mean 99% of the males all go to meat, and half the females, and yeah, it's very much a meat breed, and they do well at the meat market. Like they're bulky, they're thick, because they're eating everything they want to eat. A lot of people raising goats for meat are on a farm, and you've got X amount of acres to work with, and economic wise, you're gonna put as many animals on a piece of ground and make as much of a profit as you can per acre versus per animal. And I don't want to say I have unlimited acres, but to some degree, I have unlimited acres. I can adjust my numbers to the acreage that I need to use. When that time comes in the fall, when I am down to X amount of acres, then I get rid of the excess. Those go to market. The grazing season's over. They're no longer making me money. They're going to start costing me money. So I'm going to start cutting the freeloaders and getting rid of them. And then then I'm back to being a traditional farmer with X amount of acres, X amount of animals, and know my growth within that.
So in comparison to your conventional ranching, whether that be goats, sheep, cattle, you've got a per acre carrying capacity that you have, and you're going to stock accordingly, of course, with rain and growth and all of that. But you've taken it to a different degree and looking out as your contract acreage and your contract forage and feed that you have out there. So in essence, the however many thousands of acres that you're working across the state of Iowa become your targeted vegetation load and feed load for your grazing season and off season. Is that how you're doing it?
Exactly. And like I said, the targeted grazing season is basically an unlimited acreage, because you have all the acres and all the land is a potential client, a potential customer down the road. And the limiting factors is going to be my time, my labor, my effort, my stress, how far I can drive in a day. There's the limited, it's not limited to how much animals I have. It's limited how much work I can physically do between sun up and sun down and after.
Only so many hours in the day that you can possibly stay awake and do stuff. Let's take a step back to the logistics of this because it blows my mind. Give me an idea of on a typical, you're in the heat of the grazing season. How many locations do you have? How far spread out do you think that is? How many goats are working at one time?
This year, I think at the peak in June or July, we had 12 different herds in 8 different counties that were being moved, like having to go there at least every week. And there might have been a few more that were more local that I don't have to go have eyes on them every day because I have some sort of I don't know, drive by, see them from the road, or somebody else is checking in for me. I've got a lot of local friends, family, volunteers that everyone loves seeing goats, and people are always asking, hey, can I just like check on those for you? It's like, sure, go check those guys out. Count them. Good luck.
Adam, how do you do this? Again, it's blowing my mind. I mean, tell me, how many of you are there? Is it just you, or do you have actual staff, or are you just relying on the community to help you out?
Yeah, no, I don't have employees or anything. I'm just me. But like my dad just retired in January, so that's exciting because now he gets to be full time.
Full-time retirement.
Exactly, right? It's what dads do. He's been helping me from the get-go. I mean, we were both working our regular jobs, and we'd get together nights and weekends and take a look at things, and just kind of growing from there. And then my sister lives next door, so my sister, brother-in-law, they've got 5 kids. The oldest one just turned 10, so they're starting to get to that age where they can be helpful. And like if I have any bottle kids, they can take care of those, or if I just moral support, like I got a lot going on, I'm stressed out, let's go play with the kids. That's worth something. But as far as like daily work, grazing jobs, they don't do anything with the grazing jobs. And then I've got a high school kid who has been helping out for the last couple of years. Met him at Vacation Bible School. I was helping out there, and he was one of the kids, and I brought baby goats there for the kids to play with one day, and he was one of the older kids that really enjoyed it. And kind of over 3 or 4 years of doing that, he got to be a high school kid that was able-bodied and wanted a town kid that wanted to do a little country life living. So now he's got a summer job and helps out here and there during the season as well. And he may very well become an employee someday, but more or less just local kid.
All right. So you've got 12 different locations, 8 different counties. Who are your customers? Who are you working for?
Anybody who wants some goats. When I started, I was working for the DNR. So my first client would be the DNR because I saw the expense reports. I saw how much we were spending in fire and herbicide and all the equipment, all the stuff that went into brush management, invasive species removal. So that was my first customer, legit customer, I guess, was the DNR, and I was no longer working there anymore, so not a conflict of interest anymore. That's where it kind of started. I didn't do too many jobs with them. It was just to get an understanding of this, get my wheels going, and then it's almost entirely been private landowners from there. I guess there's a college. We do a job for a college for a couple weeks, and then I've done some restaurants, I've done some bars, retirement communities. Heck, Ragbri is going through town. Throw some goats over here and slow down the Ragbri. You might not know what Ragbri is. Ragbri is a registered annual great bike ride across Iowa. It's a 500-acre bike ride across the state. So you bring in thousands and thousands of people from all over the country, all over the world. So I mean, you want to slow them down as much as possible so they spend some money in the local economy. But sometimes we'll get pulled into stuff like that, little stunts. We don't ever do like petting zoo stuff, but just, I mean, seeing a couple hundred head of goats in the side of the road, that slows some people down for photo op.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. It's something you don't see every day. Okay, so then the majority of the work you're doing is for private landowners. So the land management that goes on there is controlled burns and herbicide and mowing or masticating on this brush. How do you then, are you convincing or do you have to convince these landowners that the goats are the better solution? Is it price driven or is it conservation driven?
Yeah, so yeah, for them in general, just give you an idea of what part of Iowa I'm in. We're north of so southern Iowa is pretty hilly. Northeast Iowa is, I mean, cliff faces, called the driftless area. And then northwest to northern Iowa is pretty well flat. We've got western Iowa's flat too, but we're kind of in the sweet spot along the Iowa River it's hilly. It's hilly enough that you don't farm every inch of the state. Like northern, western Iowa, that's pretty well all you farm. You rip out the fence posts, you farm from ditch to ditch, and the whole thing is farm ground. But here it's a little rougher, so you've got they farm what you can. In general, like I like to say, farm what you can, conserve the rest. Farm the best, conserve the rest is a great saying for how to manage land around here. So that ground that is in conservation, whether it's in trees or prairie or whatever, the rougher stuff that you don't want to be doing tillage and spraying and mostly tillage and upsetting a combine tractor. That's the big concern, and erosion control. But so those areas that have not been farmed because of topography, those are our main areas that we go into. And then, so if you can't farm it because it's too steep, you're probably not going to get equipment in there because it's too steep. Fire, everyone's still scared of fire. So like, and I get that. I'm a firefighter. Like I'm on a volunteer board. I fought fires out west. So like I like to use fire. It's a great tool, but very limited people who should be using it. And I mean, not every landowner should be out there lighting ditches, because that's when we get calls. I had a call yesterday that we had a big fire to go on and burned up 40 acres and we got it put out. But it's like, yep, everybody shouldn't just be out here starting fires. But you see us do it and it's all controlled. It looks great. And like, man, that didn't take much effort, but it's not about the amount of effort. It's about the amount of planning and all that. So anyway, the hills also, burning in the hills, you have change in wind and all these elevation changes. It affects fire. So fire's out. Mowing with equipment is out because you're going to tip over a machine. So now you're down to herbicide. And a lot of people don't use herbicide anymore. And if you do, you still got to get in there. And what are you going to get in there with? Equipment. Remember, can't use equipment on that hilly stuff. So you're working in these topographic areas that it's the only option, really. Oh, otherwise you get a hand crew in there and nobody wants to, I don't say nobody wants to work, but I mean, nobody wants to do the high effort, high risk, roll an ankle, hurt yourself, cutting a tree, cutting brush, chainsaw. It's the riskier stuff. The goats go in there. They're born into this life. They don't roll ankles. They don't get hurt. They love it. They climb it, So that's our main areas, is the places where nothing else works. And we might do a small piece of an area. Like you can run equipment around the outside. You don't have to worry about issues there, which is great. You can go around the outside of this hill, get the equipment around there, give us a good break, give us a good spot to put our fence, and then we'll send the goats in there, work in the hills for a while, do what the goats do, and then we'll get out. Sometimes we'll have repeat customers a year after year after year. Sometimes it's like a 3-year deal. Sometimes it's just they see us once, we don't come back, because like a great conservation plan is if you can get equipment in there, mow it all down, it comes back with a vengeance. Well, then have the goats go in there and they nip up every leaf, and then after a while you have some grass coming back or some leaf matter, all that brush buildup. Then we run a fire through there. I try to build all my contracts to where you don't have to use herbicide at all. That's the one thing. I mean, I'm happy to do fire. If you can get equipment, great. Obviously I do the goats, but if I can knock out the herbicide, great. And you never know with regulations if that's going to get forcibly cut anyway. So you should start learning how to manage ground without herbicide if you can, because it's kind of this little secret sauce we got tossed 50 years ago and we're still using it and never knowing it's going to disappear.
When you're going in with these potential customers and current customers, are you coming up with the management plan and presenting that to them, or are they coming to you with it? How's that work with your customers?
Yeah, it's everything. No two clients are the same. They're not even that similar. I mean, everyone's got a different idea. And a lot of times it's, hey, I see what you're doing at so-and-so's, either a neighbor or if we're on a road or somebody's driven by, or people talk, the local bar talks all the time, the local restaurants, the local churches, everybody, anywhere you get community, people are talking about, hey, see all those goats, where those come from? Or, hey, what's Adam doing with the goats now? So people talk, and Then they get back to me, and sometimes I hear somebody's going to be talking to you soon. Well, it might be this year, it might be 3 years later. They finally get to talking to me, and I knew it would be coming. Sometimes I'll already have a general plan built up, or if they say, just give me an idea. What do you want? What is your end goal? How can I help you get there? So I do like general environmental contracting and, help build a plan. Like, okay, this we currently farm this. We would rather not farm it. What are your thoughts on that? So, I mean, I'll conduct anybody's land management from fire to goatscaping to conservation practices, putting in conservation reserve program where you plant prairie instead of corn, anything related to that. I'm basically a private natural resource conservation service. And 9 times out of 10, I'm going to hook you up with them anyway, or I'll build a plan for you. We'll go together to get that plan continued. And if there's, just help landowners manage their land or manage it for them. Either way, happy to help people.
So what does this look like? How are you going in once you've got this job secured? How are you going in and setting it up, determining the number of goats and duration, all of those things?
In general, I use the numbers 100. It's between 100 and 200 goats will eat an acre a day, and that's going to be dependent on what your acre looks like. If it's grass with some brush, if it's all brush, or if it's trees with brush underneath, depending on what kind of canopy we're working in, that's going to be that determining factor of 100 to 200 goats eating 1 acre per day. And then for the most part, we'll turn them in, and then it's all whatever it looks like. We'll just go by eye. But you gotta have a plan. You gotta have something to go off of. But yeah, so we'll bring them in roughly that number. If we're going to clear out 10 acres, we'll bring in 100 goats, and we'll be there for a week and a half, 2 weeks, and 1 trailer load, unload it. We'll mow a line around the outside. We'll put the goats in. Sometimes we'll do an acre at a time. Sometimes we'll do that whole 10-acre piece.
So if I heard you right, sometimes you're doing it in small chunks and moving them more frequently. Sometimes you're going to fence in a whole 10-acre area. What's more common for you? Are you putting them in a big area just to be able to leave them there because of your logistical abilities, or what's the mindset there?
I'd say that's probably more common. I mean, we do it all. Like, if I've got 500 goats, I'm going to have to move every couple hours. So I'll bring in 500 goats on 10 acres and be done in a couple days. It's not worth going in there and separating that out unless we have a targeted area. So we might fence off 30 acres on the outside, and then we'll go and inside of the fenced in area, we'll make another smaller area. So we'll make sure that they hit this first. We get to the point, okay, those need to be released, but they still need to work on it. We'll release them to the rest of it or something like that. If there's a water source on site, I'd rather use an on-site water source, a pond, a stream, whatever we've got. I'd rather use that. So we'll fence them into a work area, and then after a couple hours, like, okay, now release them to the area that has the water, and then they'll just have that whole area for the rest of the week they're there, something like that.
As a side note to this, I hear you say fencing in 30 acres, and you're using portable electric netting. So if you're fencing in an area of 30 acres and you've got 12 different sites, how much portable electric fencing do you have?
Yeah, we've got over 500 rolls of Premier One electric net fencing.
I heard somewhere you say you have over 10 miles worth of fencing.
Yeah, 164 feet times, 164
Times
foot roll. Yeah.
It's a lot. That's big math. That's big math. That's a lot.
Sometimes we need to move from this site to this site, and I'm more concerned about getting those goats moved than I am about picking up fence. So that's kind of where having so many rolls of fence came from. Is it's worth my time. It's my time plus the goat's health, the biology of the animal, plus the value of the fence versus my mileage or my time. So it's all a balancing act. I mean,
You bet.
I don't know. My brain is cooking 100 miles an hour all the time. So like, okay, it's not worth us tearing this down. Let's just take them to that site. It's an hour and a half away, so we're going to load them up. We're going to get there because the sunset's going to happen in about 3 hours. We got to get there. We got to get it set up. We got to get them dropped off. So let's go do that, and then tomorrow we'll do this. Or tonight at midnight with headlamps, we'll tear down this fence because we don't need to see that well to take down fence.
So you're just in this continual state of logistical juggling is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So You're going. You've driven off 2 hours from home. You've dropped off 100 goats in a 10-acre area, and you go off and you leave them. Do you have guardian dogs? Nobody's there to watch them. What's happening there?
Yep, that's a good question and another controversial subject, and have a lot of those. So we don't have any guardian dogs, and people with goats and sheep, small ruminants in general, they think you're crazy, you're an idiot, you're a novice, you haven't known this very long to know that you have to have livestock guardian dogs. And they're right to some degree. I mean, things can happen. Things can happen, and it depends on what kind of breed, what kind of variant of your breed. But again, we've been working on this specific variant of our breed for long enough that we pay attention to those mothers who are very aggressive, both at having kids, at foraging, and at protecting those kids. So I'll have a friend come over, they bring their dog. Pretty soon that dog doesn't want anything to do with goats anymore because it got a little curious, went after a goat or after a kid. That mother came out of the bush and just beat that dog to a pulp, got it into a corner. And all of my friends that have dogs are more concerned about their dog than they are about the goat getting hurt. So those goats are very protective mothers. Again, not saying things can't happen, but the only time you really have to worry about goats and predators, and when we're talking predators, we're really mainly talking about coyotes and foxes around here, maybe a potential bobcat, maybe a potential mountain lion occasionally, but few and far between on mountain lions. There's just not too many big predators to worry about. And then, I mean, obviously you've got your wild dogs or people's dogs, but that is the number one reason why I do not run livestock guarding dogs, because I heard the horror story. I think it was a guy, I talked to a guy either in Colorado or California when I was out there, who he had a pretty well established goatscaping business. He went to a city park to do a goatscaping job. They had their dog off leash. Their dog hopped the fence, attacked a goat. His dog attacked the dog who was attacking the goat. The human hopped the fence to go pull his dog out, and he got bit. He sued the guy for his whole operation. We all have insurance to cover this stuff, but your insurance says, okay, either one, we're not covering it, or two, we covered it and you're done. No more insurance. So that guy lost his whole business and still had a lawsuit, still had to pay money towards this situation which technically he had his dog off leash. And it depends on what your rules, laws, regulations are, where you're at. But that's enough reason for me to not have a livestock guardian dog. So that's the main reason. I almost got a dog one time, and then I asked him, have you ever had any issues with it and other dogs, like neighbor dogs? Because all my neighbors have dogs. My sister's got a dog. Like everyone around me has dogs, and they're all lovely pet, they're all labs and just nice family friendly dogs. And like, well, yeah, that dog hopped the fence and killed the neighbor's dog. And well, he said it killed the neighbor's dog. I was like, oh, was it in there trying to kill a goat? And he's like, nope, it hopped the fence and murdered it in their yard in front of the kid. And it's like, nope, I don't want any dogs. And so again, controversial subject, because some people lose goats because of not having livestock guardian dogs, but I would honestly rather lose a couple goats than have either one of those scenarios happen. And we haven't had an issue between the tough mamas and we kid close to home. I got eyes on them. Once those kids are cleaned off, you don't have the smell of a newborn kid. They go out to pasture. The predators don't really want them anymore once they're not a week old. I mean, every bobcat, every coyote, everyone knows during fawning season, those are easy meals. I was on a study with the DNR. We had a camera set up in a bobcat den, and it brought in a fawn every single day for 2 weeks. But then it didn't bring any more fawns in because all the fawns were too big and too fast to be caught by the bobcat to some degree. So, I mean, predators eat a lot of baby animals, but after a certain point, baby animals aren't babies anymore and they can get away. And that's kind of proven with the goats too. And yeah, that was a long tangent on dogs, but
No. That is a fascinating deal because, like you said, it is a controversial subject, and just like your fencing, you're weighing the costs benefit type of deal on both, and
Yep.
and you've got to make those decisions in business sometimes, and it's just the way it is. Okay, so no livestock guardian dogs. Do you have a herding dog.
I had a herding dog. I lost her a couple of years ago, and I still haven't gotten one. But I'll be getting a border collie pretty soon. That yeah, I love that dog. So it takes a toll on you when you lose a dog.
Yeah. So then you don't have one. You're running 1,000 goats. How you gathering all your goats up when you go get them?
It's so good example. So guy just got some goats from me who like this past week, somebody bought some goats from me because he bought goats from me in the past. And he said, it's awesome. I pull up to move these goats, and he doesn't do goatscaping. He's just a farmer who's moving goats around rarely. And he's like, those 8 goats I got from you, they come running when they see the trailer and they climb right on. The other ones, we got to chase them. And you think about, like, we move goats all the time, and they know when we're going to load up a trailer, they come running. We load them all up. They're going to new forage. We usually give them mineral on site, and we don't give it to them all the time. Like, once we get to a new site, we give them mineral. They usually eat all that mineral, and then after a week, if they've been on the site for a week, now they're like, hey, we need some more mineral. So they hear that trailer bouncing, pulling in, and they know it's time to go. I just holler at them, and they'll come close, and we'll make a little funnel to get them on there. But I mean, in the beginning, when I was training them to get on the trailer, I would have one person with a bucket of grain walk on there, get off the front door, close the door, and then one person push them from behind. Or actually, no, I was alone in the beginning. So I would walk onto the bucket of grain, close the front door, run around real fast to the back, close the door. But you had to make sure you had half a trailer load, because you can't get a full trailer load if you're trying to run around on them. But now that I have help, we don't use grain anymore. I mean, I would still say you should still use grain as a tool, but we try not to give them grain and try not to baby them too much. So sometimes we'll that's the other thing. Break off a branch with deciduous leaves on it works 10 times better than a bucket of grain, I swear. You rattle that thing and they come running. You walk on that trailer, close the door, get them on there, and it's great. Or a lot of times we'll make like a little corral and like a 164-foot net, which makes a 40 by 40 square pen, and then point that thing like a funnel and just push them onto the trailer. They know what's going on. They're trained. A lot of these goats they're getting older. I mean, we got plenty of young ones, but I mean, the oldest goat we ever had was 14 years old, and she was still healthy, moving until that year. So I mean, the older they are, the smarter they are.
They've been there, they've done that, they know what's going on, and that's
Got
habit
that goat
is a
wisdom.
wonderful thing. Absolutely. All right, so in 2024, what do you think your total acreage was?
23, we covered just over 1,000 acres. 24, just over 2,000 this year. Probably going to be hitting about 2,500 acres.
All right, so then let's get to the question everybody always wants to know. One, how do you bid jobs? And then give us a range of what you charge on a job.
Yeah. So everything is really based on, obviously, going to be my time, my labor, my mileage. And then there's a risk factor, which is a big component. In general, I mean, you look at trucking rates, $2 a mile, $2 to $3 a mile, just depends on what time of year and price of oil and all that fun stuff. So, so my mileage to get there, mileage to get back. If I don't need to go there with a trailer, it's going to be a reduced mileage cost. How much time am I spending to be there? Am I going to have help to be there? Can the client cover some of those costs? Like if I don't need to go there every single day, if I have a landowner who's willing to get out, and they need, like, we need to be on the same page. Like I can connect with somebody that I know knows what I'm saying versus somebody who's just kind of nodding along and isn't paying attention. So like if they are walk with me, walk the fence line. Okay, this is what we need. This is checking the fence line. And sometimes I'll have them like send me pictures or videos or something that'll save me a trip. Anytime I can save a trip, save some time, it's going to reduce the cost, obviously. So mileage, time, and then risk factor. If we are in a city, it's going to cost a lot more than if we are in the country. So my local jobs are a lot cheaper than my urban jobs and my far out jobs. But those urban and far out jobs you can't really set it's X amount per acre or X amount per goat. $2 per head per day or $5 per head per day or $500 an acre, $1,000 an acre. Those are kind of the numbers you hear people use. And it's just, you can't exactly put it to that. This is what it costs to get it done because of all the many equations that I've run it through. And also, like, something might happen to one. It might get hung up in a tree. You almost have to assume you're going to lose one on every job because someday you will, and you might lose more than one. And nobody wants to talk about like losing goats and all that. But I mean, I I'll have like an old fence line running through the piece that we're doing that I didn't see existed. They didn't know existed, but they got tied up in a fence and, twisted a leg, got stabbed with stepping on a nail. I mean, any of those things can happen. So you got to adjust the cost of the animal, and you can have that, every contract's different. You could say, if something happens, it's going to cost this much. But instead, I just kind of price it in to every job. Something could happen, and eventually when it does, then it's covered. You don't want to have that lingering. That's just a business model thing. You don't want to have that lingering thing. If this happens, and it's going to cost more, because they want a budget and they want it to stay to the budget. Estimates are estimates, but quoted price is a quoted price. Everything's different. And I'll have 10 different ways I write a contract every year, and they all change. And I say I do it this way. And same thing with my operation in general. I do it this way. I 100% do it this way. And then next year, never mind, I guess we do it this way now. And that goes to every part of the business. And I'm a flexible person, and I can get along with anybody. So I hope that they can do the same.
So you got 100 different variables that you're looking at. Can you give us a relative price range? I mean, to make it simple, not every acre is the same as another acre, but what would be an average per acre cost that you might be charging?
Yeah, $500-$600 an acre average, and that's going to be far, including the faraway stuff and the close stuff. Yeah, that'd probably be pretty close average. But again, your urban areas, you're going to be over $1,000 an acre. If you're running, it might be a half an acre in the middle of a city an hour away. That's going to cost a lot more per acre than 100 acres next to my house, because my neighbor's like, hey, I like these goats. You want to bring them over here? That's going to be next to nothing, because I already have an attached fence line. So, and I'll treat those guys like the local stuff is just a little better business, because, hey, if you're okay with me not doing it at this set time, but when I have a cancellation or when I'm coming back from here, I want to put them here. And if I need to pull them out to go there, then I can do that. Like and then you eventually kind of build into, now you're part of the operation. Like you started out as a customer, and then you turned into a lease, a rental or lease, a partnership, however you want to say that. But sometimes your customers and clients can turn into business partners. So just do a good job as much as you can, because you're all going to see each other again someday. A lot of these, a lot of people get into something, get in quick, think it's a get rich quick scheme, and they dive in and then do a poor job, and then everyone looks bad and you look really bad. And so if you treat everybody like they're your neighbor, then you have a lot of neighbors.
Great words to live by right there. So we don't have livestock guardian dogs for a lot of reasons in your operation. The cost benefit type of deal with predators is one thing, but you've mentioned this a couple times. When you get into a city, into an urban area, there's more risk involved. Of course, price goes up a little bit, but talk to me about what the risk is and how comfortable you are leaving goats in a populated area like that.
Like as far as somebody cutting your fence, somebody stealing them getting out on the highway. Yeah.
You tell me all the things can happen. Do they happen for you? And how are you dealing with it if you're an hour away?
Yeah. So I guess we'll bring in another part of the puzzle. So the virtual fence system, we use virtual fence collars, and the intended use of them is basically it's a collar, goes around the neck, and it looks like a cowbell. It's an A-frame box with a battery snaps in the bottom, and then you got 2 solar panels on the top, and a chain that goes around the neck to a rubber strap that can tear away if they get caught on something. The chain conducts electricity, and it has a microchip in it that tracks its GPS system, so it's all satellite driven. So you don't have to have a post, an underground fence like a dog. It's satellite driven. So that collar is virtually a cell phone to some degree. I mean, its satellites are moving around, and you have line drawn. If they get close to the line, it will beep at them. If they cross the line, it will shock them. And they can be trained. It takes a couple days to get them used to it, but they can be trained to use it. Once they know what it is, you don't have the fences anymore. You can do a lot more with them. It's a totally different system than our hard fences, our electric net fences, and shepherding, just being out there without any fences, or herding dogs. So that is a great tool for virtual fence in general, but also one of the added bonuses is it's a GPS for just locating the animal. And so in general, on talking 12 different herds, whatever I said, 12 different herds, I would have at least one collar in every one of those herds. because I can then see where everyone's at on average, an average of where everyone's at. So if the herd gets out, that one's getting out with it. So she's going to help me track down the herd if they're loose. There's obviously, if you don't have everyone collared, then you can't. If that one stays in and everyone else got out, well, you're in trouble. But also the system, I have one, in order for that no fence, virtual fence collar system to work properly, all of the animals need to be collared, at least all of the adults. You could have some kids on mom that are only going to go so far from mom, but you want all of them to be collared. And so I'll have 1 or 2 herds that are fully virtual fenced in, and then 1 collar per electric net fence site that is just using the collar as a tracer. And they have much cheaper options and alternative options for a GPS system that's not a virtual fence collar. It's probably overkill to use a virtual fence collar as a GPS, but I have the system. It's just part of it.
So this idea of virtual fence collars it's growing in popularity. And are you the first commercial goat grazer that's using these collars?
Well, so they're from Norway, and they were in Norway first. I don't know how many years ago they got started, and then they were in the UK. They come to us next, or they might have been in Spain or some other country. But anyway, yeah, they've been in 2 other countries prior to the U.S. And then I was speaking at a conference, and they were also speaking at a conference, and somebody connected us and said, you guys should be friends. And so they came out to my farm from the conference. Like, I think the conference was in central Iowa, and they were headed to Chicago for a flight. So they just swung by my farm on the way home, and they ended up giving me a collar there. And basically as we'd like to do business in the future. So I've been a pilot for 3 years or so. And yeah, I get more collars every year, and now they're available. I don't know if you can just order them and ship them, but the wait list is much shorter now. So I mean, they're available for the public because we got the kinks out.
Yeah, you were the guinea pig on the deal.
Yeah, the pilots, the guinea pigs, we get to find all the things that need improvements, and now they're really good.
Are these things economically viable? I mean, there's an expense to buy in every single collar. There's a monitoring fee that goes along with them. Can you talk to me a little bit about what that money looks like, and is it viable for a targeted goat grazing company to get into and use these?
Yep. So I don't have exact numbers of what things cost, but I have a pretty good idea. I'm going to say the collars themselves cost $200 to $300, say $250 a piece for the actual collar with the chains, the collar. And then I think they come with a battery, but if you need another, like you want a couple spare batteries, they're like $20. And then the charger, probably $40. I don't know. But you need to have a few spare parts, just like anything, have some spares. But then the subscription cost is kind of the kicker that people either don't like or that they don't notice is you pay $50 a year to use it, or $5 a month. It depends on what setup you want to use. It's like you might not use them in the winter, so you don't pay for the whole year, whatever. It's just different things. But in general, you're looking at $250 for the collar and $50 a year to use it. And those numbers are definitely not right, but they're close. So you got to do the math on that. Is it worth it? And the people who say it's definitely not worth it aren't doing the math of what it costs to start up. Because if it's 100% now, if they're saying it's 100% not worth it, it's because they already have the fence, they already have an operation, they're already going with something, they already have all this electric net, they already have all the woven wire, whatever. But if you are starting out from ground zero and you want 5 goats and you don't have any fence or any experience, I think it's a great option because, believe it or not, fence costs money too. And so if you can save the money on fences and equipment that goes into fences and installation of the fence, you're going to hire the hard fence, hire out a fence builder and all those things, that costs money. And then it's just for your home place. If you are 100% a goatscaper and you are living nomadically, floating around with your herd of however many goats, this works great. Yeah, I personally fall into all the categories because I have established things. I've been doing this for a long time with the electric net. So I have established land, so I have hard fences. I also have been doing this for over 10 years, 12 years with electric net fencing. And so I know that well. I have tons of it. It's a moving operation. It's great. But I'm also I'm an open person. I love to try new things. I want to see what it's like. So I'm willing to take a chance on it. And I can find places where it will, one, work, two, benefit what I'm already doing, or three, a whole new piece of the puzzle that I didn't know existed. Kind of like goats in land management in general. Like goats, nobody used goats. Now they use goats. It's a whole piece of the puzzle that never existed, and now it does. The virtual fence collars, same thing. Totally different than electric net. Totally different than hard fence. You could call me right now. You're in New Mexico. You could call me and say, hey, can you be here in 3 days? I need you to clear out 10 acres and bring some goats. I can load them up. I can haul them down and not have to bring any fence or anything, and they can clear that out. And I love it. It's great. I don't know how many I'm going to have because there's probably a threshold of how many goats and collars you can feasibly use. I've got over 100 right now, but I'm not going to get 1,000 collars.
There are instances where it works great, instances where maybe not so great. It's just like there's so many variables, I'm assuming, in all things that you've got going on. And so you just look at it and decide what's best for this situation. Is that right?
Exactly.
How long did it take you to train those goats with those virtual
I want to
collars?
say they recommend 3 weeks. I'd say it really only takes 2-3 days. At least that's kind of what I've noticed with them. In order to train them, you put up fence on 3 sides of a paddock and then virtually fence off the middle. So they still have a hard fence if they bust the virtual line, the barrier. And then over time, they figured out that the beeping means zappy. And then, they figure it out pretty quick. And then sometimes you just have a dumb one that can't figure it out. And for me, it's like, well, you're still a good goat. You're just not in this program anymore. You're going to go back to electric net or hard fence, or if they're the only goat, if it's the only system you have, and it's usually they're stupid for other reasons. It's not just the fence they can't figure out. So you just get rid of them, go to market or something. I think I've had one for you. Yeah, I think I've had one goat ever that didn't figure it out, and she also got her head stuck in hard fences all the time, so she was easy to get rid of. But here's the other thing. I've got a goat that she hopped the fence. She was hopping my electric net fence, which I never have goats do that, and I don't want them to learn. So if you have one, again, you have a problem, get rid of the problem so they don't teach the other ones to be problems. So she hopped the fence, and I was like, this fluke thing. She probably just, whatever, accident. So I put her back in, came back a couple hours later. She was out with 3 other goats, put them back. Another hour later, she's out with 7 goats. Okay, you're a problem. Let's get you out of here. So I hold her out. I put a collar on her. I put a virtual fence collar on her, and she can't outsmart that system. She can hop a regular fence, but she can't outsmart a satellite-driven electric chain around your neck. So that helped me. Like, I would have called her to market. She's a great mother, she looks awesome. She's big. She's probably gonna have triplets. And I would hate to call her just because she can't handle my fencing. Well, now she's got a fencing that can handle her, and it's great. It's hard to fight to outsmart 3 different systems.
Great to have the options. Yeah, sometimes you just don't want to get rid of those good ones. Okay, so you've got your electric fencing, you've got your virtual fencing, and now you've talked about it quite a bit. You use hard panel fencing as well. What are you using, and what situations are you using for that?
So our hard fences, we use a product. It's from a company called Stay Tough. Stay Tough, Goat Tough is the sub brand, but it is a 12-inch vertical stays is the key. So your typical woven wire, your traditional cattle woven wire or hog tight wire is going to be a 6x6. At least it'll have 6-inch verticals and typically like a 6x6 square wire that the goats, as soon as you get goats, they're going to put their head through the fence. They're going to reach out for some grass on the other side. They're going to get their head stuck, and you're going to be cussing goats when really you should be cussing your fence and your just that. The management is the problem, not the animal. So I know a lot of people are like, I'm never getting goats because they just get stuck in fences. Well, that's your fault. That's around their own fence. And same thing with cattle panels. Cattle panels are typically 6 inches, and they put their head in and they get stuck, and then people are bolt cutting their cattle panels. It's like, no. If they put their head through, they can pull their head back through, but get rid of that system, get a new system. So it's called 134812. So it's 13 strands tall, at 48 inches tall, so 1348. and then 12 is the vertical staves. So you've got 12-inch verticals. They put their head through. They eat on the other side. They put around here. They're eating all the cedars, all the mulberry trees, all the multiflora rose, all the brush that wants to grow on the fence line on the other side that typically couldn't get to. They're eating all of that, keeping your fence lines clean, so you don't have to replace fences in 10 years. So they pull their head back through, and they don't get stuck. Ever since I started putting this stuff in, I've never once had a goat get its head stuck. I love it.
Are you using those hard panels just at home, or are you using them on the jobs as well?
Just at home. I have some panels that I like cut into this is like 15-foot long that fold up so I can make a little tight funnel to get them on the trailer, but I didn't even use those very long because they just get on the trailer so easy. In the beginning, if you got like some spooky goats that are trying to bust through your fence line when you're trying to load them, you might want a little harder fence, so you could throw a couple of those on for corralling them, but electric net has never failed us on. They just need a visual barrier to get on the trailer.
Sure. Absolutely. All right. So you're working pretty much, did I hear you right? May to October. Is that pretty much your working season?
That's pretty good. Yeah. Yep. Exactly what I would say. We do some like cedar jobs in the winter. So like goats will eat anything that's green, and the only thing that's green in the winter is cedar trees. So we'll go into those areas from like through December. It could be there all winter, but I like to have goats home for Christmas. So from Christmas to Christmas to Easter, basically, they're home.
So they're at your home place there, and I see a lot of work you're doing with bale grazing, and that's something that I think is growing in popularity. Now, are you just doing your bale grazing on your home place, or is that a potential other revenue source for you to be doing that on someone else's land?
Yeah. So a couple, I mean, you're bale grazing. One, you're feeding the animals. Two, you're feeding the soils. Whatever they don't eat is usually considered waste, but when you're kind of putting it in certain areas, you put it in your low fertility areas, you're boosting fertility, whether you're farming it or pasture, whatever. But also, depending on what kind of bale you're rolling out, you're also bringing in seed. So I will take good prairie that is mature seed and it's ready to drop, but not quite, like it hasn't been frosted yet, so it hasn't released that seed. And so it's still attached enough that you can cut it, rake it, bale it, haul it, and it's still attached to the plant, to the grass. And then I can roll that out into certain areas, and I am spreading prairie into places that are European species. If I don't want those European species, or if somebody's trying to do a restoration, or if it's fallow ground, old row crop that's converting, or just areas that are not growing much, just weeds or thistles or something, you can roll this stuff out and you create biological life right there, because you need some biology in the soil to get anything to grow. And if you're planting the biological life in the soil plus the seed, you've got an ecosystem just waiting to be used. But no, I'm pretty much doing that on my own stuff. I have done a couple seedings, but I've got a couple, nice. I got some aerials. Like they just released a new Google Maps, just updated. It's great. So I got to see exactly where I rolled out these bales, and there's like these veins of like, oh, why does it go that way and then curve? Like, because I rolled a bale down the hill and it took a turn.
It turned on its way down.
Yeah.
So explain that for somebody who may not know what bale grazing is. Just give me a brief description of what it is.
Yeah. So you've got your square bales that you feed by hand, and you've got your big round bales that you make with a big round baler. And then typically you take those with a tractor, skid loader, put those in a hay ring or whatever your feeding source is, and they eat it that way. So bale grazing or rolling out hay is you have a bale and, well, you can have a bale and roller or just take it to the top of the hill and roll it down like we've done. But we have now invested into bale beds on pickups, or you can have a bale bed that just pinches the bale on the side. You can have a bale unroller on the back of a tractor. Either way, you pinch the sides of the bale and you drive and you unroll that mat. So it's wound up in a bale. And so you're basically unwinding that baler. You're undoing all the work that the baler did to roll that out where you want it and either spread your seed. Well, honestly, the number one thing for me is it spreads out the animals. So we had a bunch of goat feeders, hay feeders, so collapsible hay feeders that they don't waste much hay, but they also can get hurt in it. They can flip them over. I still use them, so I don't want to talk too poorly of them because they are necessary in certain scenarios. And I love them when I need them. But when I need to feed 500 goats, I can only feed about 20 to 30 at a time in a bale feeder. So I'm going to need a lot a lot of these feeders, and they're not cheap. They're a lot of metal welded together and painted, and it's a lot of effort. Or the crowding, they crowd around the bale and fight and just they headbutt each other. If they butt the body and cause a miscarry, you just lost 2 or 3 kids. And like there's all these negative effects of too much crowding. And again, that gets to the management. Like the animals are almost perfect. Like animals are just doing their thing. It's how we as a human are managing the animals. The animal husbandry is a big part of the problem. So if you can just I've gotten pretty good at taking a bird's eye view of what my operation looks like, how to manage it, and what do the animals need, not how can I force the animals to do what I need them to do. And that has been a big piece. So anyway, back to your question. Yeah, roll out the hay, and then it spreads out all those goats across. It might be a quarter mile. I mean, it depends how much hay they rolled up, but I mean, you roll up that hay, unroll it a quarter mile long, you've got a goat every 3 feet across that whole area.
So they're spread out, they're healthy, they're happy, and everything's working. And then you're feeding the soil. So then the next growing season, you've got microbes going in the soil, you've got seeding going on, you've got good nutrients, and you've got better production. Is that right?
Exactly.
That's fantastic. Okay, so tell me a little bit about your mentorships. So for folks that are out there trying to get into this industry and they want to learn a little bit more, you actually do some mentorship for people. Is that right?
I do, to not a massive scale, but to some degree, yeah. And
explain what your mentorship program looks like, or what you're doing for folks to helping them out. Does it cost them to do that? And how do they get a hold of you for something like that?
Yeah. So it's very much like our goatscaping business, where everything's different. Everything is different. It's what do you want to do? How much, like what scale do you want to do things at? Where are you located at? I mean, if you're states and states away, it's going to look a whole lot different than if you're within a county or two, within the state anyway. But most of my people are within the state, but I've got a few that are out there, a couple of states away. But yeah, it's just getting started and starting with good genetics. So I mean, it's most of the time it's starting with, if you already have goats, that's a whole different ball game than if you're starting out from ground zero. You haven't put fence up yet, you haven't bought goats yet. If you're getting goats from us, and then also like using our bucks. If you've got a closed herd, you're biosecure, then we're basically part of the same operation and we can work together. Right? We get started on goatscaping jobs. You need more goats, we get more goats to you. You need less goats, we get goats back, and this kind of work together. Again, having to be a biosecure. So it depends on what your intentions are, what your plans are, size and scale you want to get to. But yeah, you're basically a part of the herd. And yeah, try to make things easier, because I had some forms of mentorship, but nothing official, and nothing. It was piecing different things together. I mean, I learned a lot from cattlemen. I learned a lot from conservationists. I learned a lot from biologists, and none of it was really, this is how we use our goats for goats. And no one did exactly what I do. You kind of just piece it together as you go. But I mean, there's a lot of large scale goat operations that are good at raising goats, but not on the goatscaping side of things.
What is your biggest challenge with blue collar goatscaping?
I mean, there's a lot of work, but a lot.
That's both a good and a bad thing, right?
Yeah. I love it, but it's, you do what you love. You never work a day in your life. And that is very true for this. And I'm seeing it, like people who help me out, like at the end of the day, like you're exhausted, but you feel so good. And you get endorphins going, you get it, like it's good for your mental health. It's the same. You go to the gym, you feel good. You go for a run, you feel good. You work all day. And now it's not just the physical effort that you put in that's releasing that chemical in your head that makes you feel good. It's like you did something too. You're productive. You did something. You can see the difference. Hey, here's a line. We've got all this brush is gone. All this brush is still to go. Like you can see what you did. The animals are getting bigger, from start to finish. Right now we're kidding out goats. I've got, I don't know, 30 goats are born in the last hour probably since I've been talking to you. And those goats are 5 to 8 pounds. And in a month, in 3 months, they're going to be 50 pounds. And in a year, they're going to be 100 plus, and they're just going to keep growing. So you see the work you've done, you see the animal grow, and you're just expanding, and it's just so fun and enjoyable. And the effort, the work, the hardest part is the work, but the best part is the work. So Yeah, it's great. Managing your
I
time
love that.
is tough, and managing when to do what and where to go, and managing time is tough. I probably struggle with doing that and being where I need to be on time and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, you also don't want to get too big too fast. And that's my recommendation to a lot of people is whatever scale you want to get to, cut it in half and get there rather than struggle when you're too big. I've seen a lot of people start off too big and fail and have a bad time versus people who start out small and you're always wanting to get bigger. Well, the more you want to get there, the harder you're going to work to get there, and you just scale up from there and grow from within.
Sage advice, definitely. There's a question that gets asked of Goatscapers often, which is, why are you charging people if they're providing you free food for your animals? So do you feel like this is free food for your goats?
Yeah, I mean, that really just comes down to you're paying for the labor. I mean, anybody's welcome to go buy some goats and buy some fence and do it. I recommend anybody do it yourself before you call me, but 9 times out of 10, they hire me. I come in and do it, maybe for a year or two. And then after a couple of years, hey, can we buy some goats? And then they start raising goats. And whether they start a goatscaping business or just want to have goats, it's a great start to just watch somebody, learn from them, hire them to do something for you, and then kind of grow from there. But no, I suppose I used to hear that a little bit more, but now people see the scale and the amount of work we do. It's like, I don't want to do that. So you got to, anytime you're starting to get a little success behind you, people start making comments like that. But I don't hear it much anymore because they see the amount of work and effort it is.
Not everybody's willing to put in the work like that. So, Adam, how do people find you, contact you, buy goats from you, hire you for services?
Yep. Our biggest thing is our Facebook page, Iowa Kiko Goats Facebook page. We've got Instagram. We used to have a website, but Facebook's more, it's just bigger than the website was. So we dropped the website. So feel free to reach out there, or Iowa Kiko Goats at Gmail is the email. And then my phone number's on there. You Google Adam Ledvina, Google Iowa Kiko Goats. You're gonna find me pretty quick.
You're not a hard man to find. You're out there all
I know
over
it's
the place
hard to
when it
hide from
comes.
people.
If you just Google Iowa goats, you're gonna find Adam. Well, Adam, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you taking the time to do this. It has been an incredible wealth of knowledge, and what a journey you're on. And I commend you. And I don't know if I envy you, because the work that you're putting in is, I don't know, it's monumental, and I can't even fathom it. So
You don't need a
great
gym
job.
membership when you do this.
No, I could definitely not. There is no gym membership that could match to what you're doing, I don't think. So, Adam, again, thank you so much for being on the show.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
And for everybody else out there that's listening or watching, thank you so much for your time. Until next time, get out there and get to grazing, and have a goat day.